forewarning, there might be a lot of tears in this video. Or honestly, maybe I won't cry. I feel like I've kept it together surprisingly well.
As much as we
until last night. Last night I had a mental breakdown, but then I got it back together again.
When we dropped him off, that's when I started crying.
I cried when you were in the shower.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you guys like the beginning, and Julia's probably gonna most likely tell you the end because I witnessed some of the stuff happening.
But first we need to tell you Pi's in the ICU
right now, and he's doing better. As we're recording this video, he is doing better, but for the last 2 days, it has been a pure nightmare over here. Starting around, I would say 2 a.m. Thankfully, Antonio found him, and he heard walking upstairs. Like, the dogs slept in the living room, they were all sleeping on the couch, and he heard one of the dogs walking back and forth. And Antonio was like, okay, the dogs don't do this. Usually they're just knocked out all night, they're sleeping. And he was like, okay, maybe one of them is getting water, but it kept happening, like a pacing back and forth. If you guys didn't know, Antonio lives in the basement, and he was like, maybe they're just getting water. And then he realized there was too much walking going around. Like, it was too much. So Antonio was like, is someone in the house? Like, what is going on? Like, is someone messing with the dogs? He came upstairs with a knife. Like, he was so scared, and he seen Pi, and he looked happy to see Antonio, but he didn't really care about Antonio. And I would say that's kind of weird. And he was like out of breath. He wasn't like tired. He wasn't trying to go back to bed. He seemed restless. So Antonio decided, I'm gonna take him downstairs with me, try to get him to lay down. He would not lay down. He was so uncomfortable. So Antonio was like, okay, like I'll sleep with him in the living room. I'll lay with him on the couch for a little. And Antonio put him on the couch with him, and he's still moving around back and forth, back and forth. And then out of nowhere, he starts foaming at the mouth. And we have videos, but we're not gonna
show you guys.
Yeah, we're not gonna show them. And once Antonio seen that, he was like, holy shit, like he got into something, like Antonio thought like the worst case scenario, which I would too, seeing
give
that.
you guys a visual in your head that you probably don't want, but it was the weirdest thing ever. He woke us up, I would say around 4 a.m.
That's what I was gonna say.
It wasn't like concerning, Antonio said, until he woke us up. Like, it was just
until
weird.
He started foaming.
Once he started foaming, like he instantly ran and woke us up. But he was literally like foaming out the mouth. He was drooling, and he was doing this. He was
doing. Let me like.
He was going in circles.
He was foaming and going towards like the right, and just like he was like this. He was like a drunk person, like going like this in the video. Again, we're not going to show the video, but luckily Antonio recorded the first time when he seen it, and he was calm. Antonio said like, I was calm. I was trying to tell him it's okay, like all of that stuff. And that's when Antonio, after that incident, went upstairs banging on our door like, you gotta wake up, I think Pi's having a seizure, like I think he's like, I don't know what's going on. I get out of bed, fly downstairs, and he's foaming at the mouth, and I'm like, it's okay. And then he has another incident happens in the living room, foaming at the mouth, like doing that like drunk thing. And I'm not even lying, if you've seen a zombie movie where someone gets bit and then they start foaming at the mouth, like it looked exactly like that. And then out of nowhere, I don't understand this.
Weirdest thing.
Even with like the doctors, like I don't understand. He started sprinting, guys. I've never seen, like Pi's not the fastest dog, but I've never seen him run this fast in my whole entire life. I think after that last incident, he didn't know who we were.
He had no idea who anyone was. He didn't know where he was.
He started running, flying around our house is
doing laps.
Our house is huge. This house is a huge house. The downstairs area, I don't know how many square footage it is, but our whole house is 7,000 square feet. This dog ran from the living room all downstairs around the kitchen, laps, and we couldn't catch him, and we weren't chasing after him because we didn't want to scare him. But when he would walk by, we would kind of just be like, it's okay, calm down, flying right by us.
I'm on the phone with the hospital.
Yeah, I told Julia, I said, because before Julia came downstairs, I said, Jules, find a hospital, call doggy 911, like he needs help right now.
And at the time, we didn't know it was a seizure. I don't know what he could have gotten.
Yeah.
But the way I've never seen a dog have a seizure the way he was.
Yeah.
So it didn't look, like, I thought he literally got into something that poisoned him.
The only time I've seen a dog foam piglet is when she bit a frog or a toad,
yeah,
and it had
like
poison,
toxins.
and we had to flush her mouth out.
So I thought, oh my god, he somehow got into something poisonous.
Yeah.
And because he was like,
yeah,
and he was just foaming
just
out
pouring.
the mouth. We got this in the middle of a blizzard.
Oh yeah, mind you, it is literally in the middle of a blizzard. 4 a.m. now. We're trying to figure it out because once that happened,
and I want you guys to know we acted really fast. Like, before
we didn't
anyone
even
say something, like, we didn't waste time.
No,
the laps and everything were happening
while
I
you
was
were getting downstairs.
my jacket and on the phone with the hospital and coming downstairs.
And also, we could not catch him
and didn't want to scare him.
And Pudge and Pig were not going
Pig
near
was
him.
so scared.
They were not chasing him. They would usually follow after him and think he's playing, but they even knew something is wrong. So it started around, I would say, 2 a.m. Antonio laid with him for like an hour and a half. And then once the first one happened, that is when Antonio banged on our door. We flew downstairs. We instantly called. We instantly found a place. Luckily, they were able to take us in. It was a 24-hour. And after picking him up, I had him in a blanket and we were bringing him. Mind you, like, we're in the car in a blizzard. We're slipping and sliding.
He started having the seizures. We were timing them because we wanted to keep track. And I still thought he was like poisoned. I was so scared he was going to stop breathing.
The only reason why I didn't think he was poisoned is because
I didn't know what it would have been.
We don't put any garbage bags and stuff have to get taken out right away or to the side or up on the island table because Pudge tries to go into the trash. So we've learned our lesson with him.
We don't keep anything out, but at the same time, he's never had a seizure before. So the last thing I'm thinking is a seizure. I'm like, maybe he licked the floor, like we mopped. Maybe there was a chemical. Like, yeah. I don't know. So he starts having these episodes
for
every
15
minutes.
15 minutes. We timed it. He had 5 of them every 5 minutes, and we timed them, and we made sure, like, to get, if we can get a video, if we can have timing, if we can see how long they are. So luckily they take him in, and as we're walking in, he has another
at the front desk
seizure.
So they call it an emergency, and like a doctor runs up and she takes him back, and then after she takes him back and assesses him, she brings us back. And she said, like, they were facial focal seizures. So he was having them in, like, one area of his face.
Like, his body wasn't twitching when he was having these. It was just,
seizing.
he was like this. And just, and it was just pouring out of him. So
he was having facial focal point seizures. And, we didn't know why. And she was like, there's multiple things that can cause seizures. There's outside factors such as, like, liver problems and infection, and then there's stuff in the brain.
Yeah.
And she was like, with Frenchies,
they're prone.
She was like, they're prone to this disease in the brain that causes like inflammation, and that can cause seizures.
And these can happen. Their first seizure can happen from 6 months to 6 years old. So their first one, that's how long it takes for one to just out of nowhere, out of the blue happen. So it could have been 1,000 different things. Luckily, when they had him in the back, they were able to give him a seizure medicine.
Yeah, I was getting to that.
Go ahead.
So she was explaining to us that there's that inflammation in the brain. That's the thing with Frenchies. And then another thing is idiopathic epilepsy, which is a form of epilepsy that they don't know the cause of. And she said, unfortunately, with Frenchies, this is typically the type of epilepsy they have. Like, we do all the testing and everything comes back fine. We don't know what causes it, but at the same time, that's the only way to get a diagnosis is to run all the tests. And this is our baby, so these are all our babies. We said any and everything that you have to do, run it, do it. If he needs to stay the night, do it. If he needs to do anything. We're freaked out. We're so upset. We're so shook because he's never had a seizure in his life.
Ever.
And then he goes from having none to, I kid you not, like 10.
Like, he was having the best time of his life
6 hours.
that night.
Yeah. Like, he went from being perfectly fine to uncontrollably seizing. And it was so scary. And we tried to stay so calm for him. And she was like, I'm going to put him... She informed us about every medication, and she was like, I'm going to put him on the safest one with the least side effects right now. We're going to hold him. He has to go 24 hours seizure-free. They didn't have a neurologist at this hospital, so we were going to transfer him to their other hospital that has neurology, but they wanted to hold him until he wasn't having seizures. They called me around 9 a.m. We left the hospital, I want to say 5:30 a.m. They called us at 9 a.m. and they were like, hey, Pi hasn't seized anymore since we gave him the medicine. We were going to hold off on the transfer, but since he's a Frenchie and since he had so many cluster seizures, we think we should transfer him now.
Like, no.
So we went and we picked him up, and I actually felt better when I saw him because
when we had to say goodbye to him,
I will insert a video of us saying goodbye to him.
When we had to say goodbye to him, I don't know if you guys can kind of tell, because I wasn't worried about recording, filming, I was worried about him. We
recorded it to show for ourselves because we're documenting it. We didn't record any of this for content. We recorded it because this was before we have a diagnosis at this point.
Yeah, his lip is droopy.
Is like up and one's droopy.
Good boy, you're so brave. We'll be back, okay? I love you. I love you so much.
Boy.
You're gonna be great.
What? Hi, bud. What are you doing?
Take your hood off. See if he knows you.
Hey, what are you doing?
Okay, good. He does.
Good boy.
Okay. Bye,
Good
baby. You be
boy.
brave, okay?
Good boy.
I love you, baby.
Yeah.
So,
And you could tell, like, he was starting to realize who we were.
Yeah, he was
coming back
back
from it, but they also said every time they do have these seizures, it rewires their brain. So his brain is on overtime, like trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening.
So I felt a little better saying goodbye to him because you could tell, like, he knew who we were.
Also, the doctors had their shit together.
They were a good hospital. That was our
Yes.
first time at that hospital. They were a good
Loved it.
hospital.
Yeah.
But what I remembered is my grandpa has the same type of seizures, and his face would do that. So I was like, okay, like, it's just from the seizure. It's going to go back to normal. Fast forward to the transfer where I was before. So we picked him up for the transfer, and I felt better because he came out.
He was happy.
He was
At
happy.
first, when he seen us, he was like, who are you?
It took him a sec.
Yeah.
But then he realized he was happy. He was in the car. He was sniffing
Licking us.
smelling his brother and sister. I have a photo of him kissing my ear. And then, unfortunately,
was it like 5 minutes before we pulled in, I'd say, or like 3 minutes?
It was right when we were pulling
We were pulling into the place.
He had another seizure.
Which I recorded this one because this one was faster.
It was shorter.
Yeah, it happened, and it was, I would say, maybe 8 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
The other ones were longer and foamier, where this one
was more of the
just
twitchy,
a gnawing kind of.
Yeah.
And
you could see him snap out of this one.
Yeah, he goes
like he comes back.
Yeah.
Like it didn't take him as long. The other ones I think
was
were
like
stronger.
Yeah.
So he was so disassociated. This one he came back from, and he was more himself.
Also, when it does come to seizures, they were saying that right now, or when this was happening yesterday, this is the time where we really need to hit it, because once you do have one seizure, you tend to have another one. So,
and obviously the more you have, the worse, and it rewires their brain every time. So they really needed to stop the seizures. They needed to get the seizures to stop because they weren't. He had another one while we were in the vet. So we spoke to the doctor.
And he watched it happen.
Yeah,
he was able to see it.
He saw it happen. So we talked to the doctor. We didn't think he was going to get his MRI yesterday, actually. We thought that the neurology team wasn't going to be able to give him the MRI till today.
But luckily, they were able to give him valid.
Luckily, these doctors at these hospitals,
so
I don't know, we got so lucky. They were so amazing. When the doctor called me yesterday, and I'll play the audio in a minute, she was like, I didn't feel comfortable waiting till tomorrow. Like, with him being a Frenchie and the amount of seizures he's had, like, within this time frame, like, we needed an answer. So they gave him Valium to try to break the seizures, because they get anxious and everything after, and then they can have another. So,
and he's an anxious puppy.
They calmed him down. Once he was stable, they sedated him for the MRI. They tried to retrieve spinal fluid to make sure he didn't have any type of spinal infection or disease. Unfortunately, they couldn't get a sample. They said it's really hard with Frenchies, their build and their bone structure. But we were just sick because they said no news is good news. But the thing is, I called around 4 p.m. to check on him. And this is when we didn't think he was getting his MRI. And they were like, oh, he's in his MRI right now. So
and
I
we
was
were
like,
what?
Oh, so he is getting his MRI. Like, we were not expecting it at all. But then that's when I had my mental breakdown because I was sick to my stomach. Like,
I dogs going to sleep, anybody going to sleep makes me nervous. And Frenchies, like, I mean, they had to go over the protocols with us, like, if he was to, you know.
It was also just, like, the waiting process of, like, him not being with us. And, like, we knew he was in the ICU at this hospital. Like, they escalated him to the ICU.
ICU 2, I think, yeah.
And, like, it was just like an hour went by, like nothing. 2 hours went by. I'm like, okay, does the MRI for a dog take this long? And then we're at the 3 hour mark. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, so I called them and this hospital's so big, they have different departments. And the girl at the front desk was like, I don't know, like if I'm gonna get an update for you, but I'm gonna try. And she was like, he's with neurology. She was like, that's all I know is he's with neurology. This is common, like, it's
well,
okay.
it's like the prepping takes long and all of that.
Like he's
too.
in their hands. Like we didn't know if he was out of the MRI. She was like, the doctor should call you either tonight or in the morning. And I was just bawling my eyes out because the waiting game, like there is no expressing the feeling of
even not having him right now
of waiting and just like not having the diagnosis, and then the MRI made it feel more real, and I was just mentally prepared for like the worst thing ever. And just like I feel so bad for him. Like I really just feel so bad for him. Like he's just so little and he's so innocent, and it's just like I felt terrible because it's like there's nothing I can do for him. Like I physically, like we can't do anything. All I want to do is take care of him. So we got a phone call. What time?
I recorded it.
We got a phone call last night. Thank God this doctor was
the call was
great.
at 7:33.
The doctor was so great.
Yeah.
She explained
everything.
So I'll insert some footage to like let her explain, and you guys can like see and hear us having the conversation.
I wanted to call and chat with you about is that the MRI showed no structural problems to his brain.
Okay.
And so this is consistent with what we say is idiopathic epilepsy if this continues.
Okay.
Which is common in Frenchies. Now there's one area that I think subjectively looks a little bit bright, a little bit changed, and so we did try to do a spinal tap because sometimes bright changes to the brain could indicate meningitis, another common problem in Frenchies, and really that was my biggest concern. What I'm left with here is primarily idiopathic epilepsy, and so that's something that we treat with medication. So the ER had started him on Keppra. I'll be honest, I don't find for cluster seizures, which is what he had, where we have multiple seizures in a 24-hour period. For cluster seizures, I don't find that Keppra really cuts it all too much. I find that the Keppra is really nice because it carries minimal side effects. But the downside is it's not as strong as the other anti-seizure medications are.
Okay, is it typical for example, like how he's 4 years old and he's never had a seizure before? Like, is this typically how it comes about? Is this typically how you find that and diagnose that?
Yes. Usually with idiopathic epilepsy, the first seizure, these patients have their first seizure anywhere between 6 months and 6 years old. I typically recommend starting with, it's called phenobarbital. It's our most tried and true anti-seizure medication, but it comes with side effects because it's very good at controlling seizures, and so therefore it brings along the side effects. So what I expect to see long term is that he'll have an increased thirst and urination, even increased appetite. And then I also expect that he could have some liver changes, but what I want to monitor for is going to be any real liver damage. And so I like to check blood work to make sure that we can stay on top of that and catch it before anything, serious happens.
Does this affect their lifespan, their quality of life? Do I need to be mentally prepared for him to have a shorter lifespan, or can he live a normal, healthy life? What is your opinion on that?
Most dogs with idiopathic epilepsy, well-controlled idiopathic epilepsy, can live long, full, healthy lives.
Okay.
There are some breeds that there was a recent study that just came out that did show that there was a decrease in life expectancy or in lifespan for dogs with epilepsy.
Okay.
I think that the French Bulldog was one of them.
Okay.
But that's also because I think French Bulldogs come with so many
health issues.
Well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. His blood work came back great.
She said it was
phenomenal, actually. His blood work was phenomenal. She said that was her exact
His
words.
liver's good too.
His MRI was fine.
Yeah. Well, she said there was a little, a warm spot in a spot, but it's also, he's been having seizures.
Yeah.
So it's
But the MRI came back normal. His brain was fine. There was no sign of, that inflammation disease, a tumor. So what that left us with was the diagnosis of idiopathic epilepsy, which, back to the beginning of this video, like I said, they said it happens a lot to Frenchies. And from what I've read, dogs and humans in general, it said it's the most common type of epilepsy in dogs.
Untreated, or there's no reason.
It's unknown.
Or unknown, yeah.
So it's when there's an unknown cause, but the only way you find out it's this type of epilepsy is by doing the MRI and the blood work and eliminating,
all other scenarios.
So unfortunately, we don't and we will never know what causes this epilepsy for him. But he is epileptic, and it's just a shock. That he's gone 4 years and just out of nowhere.
And she said that's exactly how it happens.
I guess this is exactly how this type of epilepsy shows.
it doesn't make it better, but it in a way makes me feel okay,
we have an answer.
We have an answer, and
we have a treatment plan.
Also on top of it, a lot of dogs go through this, but that also makes me nervous because we have another Frenchie right here, and he just turned 2, so he's in that time frame of from 6 months to 6 years. I have never heard of this in Frenchies or just dogs in general. Obviously, I know animals do have seizures and all of that stuff, but I've always heard the things of, cancer or the fatty tumors and stuff, but I've only grown up around pit bulls and stuff like that. I've never seen a pit bull or heard of a pit bull having a seizure. And you had a golden, or not a golden, sorry.
You had a white toy poodle.
You had a white toy poodle, and he lived till he was 100.
He was blind, diabetic, deaf. He was on his last leg, and he was kicking.
He's gone now, but he went, you know what I mean? I've never heard of a seizure. Your dog had everything but that.
Yeah.
So it was just out of the blue. It is so insane because I'm just the night before.
He was so happy. He was running.
Every day he's a good dog, and it's we pay attention to our dogs. If you guys know us, you would know when it comes to anything slightly remotely wrong or they're looking uncomfortable, call the vet, taking them to the vet right away. Every single time. These dogs are our literal children, and we've just been so stressed over here. Today we're gonna go out and we're gonna go ahead and get him a new bed because poor thing.
We have to leave in 20 minutes to pick him up.
Poor thing. We found after all of this, there was some foam and stuff in his bed, and I went and wiped the floors because when he was running, he had all that foam, and
we're estimating he had around 12 seizures.
At least that we're aware of.
Seizures.
That we're aware of. And it was in such a short time frame, and if anything was to happen to your animal or human or anyone, please, in those moments, it's really hard, but try to, for that person or whoever, just be as calm as possible. because that is what the vet said. Like, if he has another one, because we asked, you know, what if he does have another one? She said the only thing you can do is just be there for him and be calm for him. Hopefully with the medicine that he is taking, one seizure is okay, but if he has multiple, that's not okay. We got to bring him right in right away.
Yeah, so speaking of that, his treatment plan, so that safer medicine with the less side effects didn't really work, so they put him on a stronger one that's also used. I think they're all used in humans. They're actually all human medications, but
Yeah.
The only thing that sucks is this medicine is stronger, so it has
More
some
side effects.
It can cause liver damage, so we have to monitor his liver. He's gonna get blood work done in 2 months. He's gonna have to take this medicine every 12 hours. And
They're also giving us a medicine for his nose.
he's also going to get Valium in a nasal spray form. So if he has a seizure, we give him the nasal spray after to calm him down and prevent another one.
Yep.
But I am just praying that we bring him home and he doesn't have another seizure. And we're not letting him out of our sight.
We already got him a doggy carriage.
All the dogs will be sleeping in our room going forward.
I mean, they do half the time already.
They normally do most of the time. But they love the couch, so we were just putting blankets on there and letting
There's
them
literally
sleep.
blankets on it right now.
But
like, I had these dogs, I'm like, I want to cuddle with my dogs, and they're like, no, I'm on the couch, and I'm like, your brother's not here, bro.
Yeah,
Come with us. And
we made them come upstairs.
We pulled them off the couch.
We were like,
last night.
sleep with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're gonna be in our room. Pie's gonna be under supervision. I
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable leaving him alone, so
There's always going to be somebody here, and if we have to go out somewhere, he is coming with us.
I bought him a doggy stroller,
Yes.
so I'm not playing games.
No, I'm not joking either.
I'm not letting anything happen to him, so he will always be under someone's supervision. Yeah, or he's coming along.
So that has been what has been going on the last 2 days over here. Hopefully when we do get him, like I said, like, he's okay. That's all I can hope for. That's really all I can hope for. We're gonna go out and get him a new bed. We're gonna get him some toys because, like I was saying, his bed was covered in foam from like having the seizures.
He's also probably not going to be like himself for 2 to 3 weeks because of how strong the medicine is. And I feel like that's just going to
They said he's going to be more thirsty, and he's going to also be more hungry, and then the next 2 to 3 weeks he'll be a little bit more tired, they said as well. So we're just going to really monitor him forever, but like especially the next 3 weeks coming up. We want to make sure we are here, we are home as much as possible, and we're just here to take care of him.
Yeah.
I think after dealing with what we dealt with a couple of months ago, hearing what Piglet has as well, it's just staying calm for them is the best thing that you can do. And it is hard because at the end of the day, they are our babies. And like, I love them with every fiber in my body. And Piglet is right here.
Hi, Mama.
But I'm just happy that he is able to come home. So we actually have to leave right now, and we're gonna go ahead and pick him up, and then we'll show you Pie a little bit later or whenever we pick up the camera again. But just know, like, we love you guys, and you guys love our dogs as well, and we just wanted to give you guys an update what's been going on over here. It's been a wild time.
I'm just in shock.
Me too, because it was just out of nowhere again. Like, Piglet is a little bit older, and you know, she has a little bit of lumps and bumps.
And
you
it's
know,
not like she was acting different.
and she wasn't acting. Yeah,
So I think Piglet's like,
it broke my heart though.
oh my god, yeah. I think seeing the seizures was just so scary.
And
Like,
there's nothing I could do to stop them. You just got to be there for them. So we're gonna leave the house now. We're gonna go pick him up, and we will see you guys in a little.
come here, baby. Come here. Come here, babe. He's checking out the camera. Oh, what's that? Okay, I wanted to give you guys a quick update on Mr. Pie. We got him back yesterday. As you can see, his poor leg is torn up from where They had to shave it and keep his IV, the back of his head, I don't know if you guys can see, is also shaved because they had to try to do a spinal fluid tap on him. Okay, he really likes being up in the camera right now, but basically right now he's doing okay. He hasn't had any more seizures, and since we brought him home, he hasn't had any more. Right, baby? But the poor thing, I think a side effect from, he's actually better today. Like yesterday, he would not be doing this. He wouldn't be stopping for me. But a side effect of the phenobarbital, which is what he's taking, do you like the camera? Is restlessness. So all yesterday, he would not stay still. He keeps, I mean, you can kind of tell now, but now is nowhere near as bad as yesterday. He could not stay still to save his life yesterday. Like, he had to be moving around everywhere nonstop. He couldn't sit for a second. He still kind of has that going on to a degree, but he's like walking a little slower, like he's more calm today. The best way I can describe this situation right now is it feels like I have like an infant or like a literal child. Like, we have to keep our eyes on him at all times. So Saud's out grabbing me Starbucks and I stayed home. We have the house, I'll show you guys like right here, like kind of where he is. Hey baby. We have things baby fenced off. Like that's like a blind spot for me if I'm watching him. So I baby fenced it off. He's really big on senses right now. So he is smelling everything multiple times. Last night, getting him to go to bed was a nightmare. Like, I was literally just praying, please let this dog fall asleep. Please let this dog fall asleep. I took him upstairs in bed because he was just too restless and there was too much room for him to walk around down here. So I took him up to bed. I want to say around 10:30, I think around 10:30 or 11. And once I brought him in the room, because there was less room, the restlessness kind of eased up a bit. He was very restless in bed, but I got him to stay in bed. And then after a while, he laid on my chest and he fell asleep. He would only stay asleep for like 20-minute increments though, and then he would wake up, check that I was still there, and then he would go back to bed. So that was kind of our routine all night. Is I would wake up with him, he'd move around a bit, he'd lay down again and get comfortable, go back to bed, he'd wake up like the next hour, the next 30 minutes, he'd pace around the bed, go back to sleep, and then I woke up with him at 8 a.m. to give him his seizure meds. He was super restless at 8 a.m., so I brought him down here so he could blow some steam and go potty. We stayed down here for like an hour. And then there's another thing, like he'll do a routine and then he wants to keep doing it. So like he's been outside, he's peed so many times and he keeps ringing the bell, but I don't want him to keep going out in the cold right now for no reason. And he's very wobbly and unbalanced. And by Antonio's window, we have this like drop off. So I have to walk outside with him every time because I don't want you to fall. I don't. You aren't as wobbly today, though. You're doing a bit better with your stability. But yeah, I just feel really bad for him. I called our primary vet yesterday, and they said that he probably will not be like himself for a month. So he's going to be off. He's going to be wobbly. But they said to just stick through it. They said that a lot of like seizure pet parents will take their dogs off the medicine just because it's so hard for them to see their dog in this state, which I understand, but they were like, you know, he really needs it, so please like push through it, like it's for the best for him. So obviously, as hard as it is to see him like restless and not himself, and like I have to pick him up on the couch every 2 minutes because he, you know, he just wants to repeat the same action over and over again. It's gonna be a rough month, but we're gonna stick it out and he's gonna get better. But I wanted to give you guys a little update. And Yeah. Oh, you can kind of see his shaved spot. How you doing, Buppy? He's probably gonna go do a lap in a sec. As long as he's healthy and happy, that's all that matters to me.